This is a feisty little thing. Hey guys, what is going on? And welcome to the Cupra Leon 300 VZ3, I believe it is. This thing is just shy of 300 horsepower. It's called the 300, but it's around 296 brake horsepower. Now, what do we know about this car? Well, we know for a fact that it is a 2-litre turbocharged engine. It's a 4-cylinder, and also this is front-wheel drive, which in itself makes this quite interesting, and I'll explain more shortly. It is a bit of a handful, I must admit. We are in autumn now, which means the roads are a little bit more kind of greasy. There's lots of leaves everywhere, so grip becomes slightly questionable. But you can get this platform in estate version, in ST version, which comes in at 306 brake horsepower, and it gives you a 0 to 60 time of 4.9, so it's just shy of a second difference in terms of its power. The question is do you want this, the kind of slightly less powerful, I guess more fruitful, more involving front-wheel drive car, or do you just want that kind of clinical weapon, which is the four-wheel drive car? We're in the front-wheel drive, so we'll talk about that. Wow, I tell you what, this does pick up well. So what can I say about this? Let's start with the price. This car comes in at around about £37,000, which is quite a lot of money when you start to look at this car in terms of its visual aesthetics. I think the problem with this car initially, straight out of the bat, is if you look at it from the rear, you're thinking to yourself, yeah, that's a cool car, 4 exhausts, some fancy Cupra badging, nice bronze accents here and there. You take a look at it from the side, and other than the 19-inch wheels, which give it away that it's a bit of a Cupra, it gives it away it's a little bit special, I guess. The side profile of this car really doesn't do anything for me. Now, I like the car, but when you look at it side on, it just feels too bland. Its lack of kind of side skirts really gets under my skin. I think, you know, all you need to do, Cupra, is just add a little bit of flair to it. And I think the fact that we're in this kind of silver color as well is a very kind of understated color. You get one of these in the kind of matte blue color, which actually looks sensational. I think that in itself kind of just adds a little bit more drama to the aesthetics of this car. The sound is relatively good, but I'm well aware that a lot of that sound is pumped in through the speakers. It is, of course, very kind of typical Golf GTI kind of noise that you get from the 2-litre engine we're so used to seeing in other VAG group cars. However, you know, this questionably, you know, who are its rivals? Well, you've got the Civic Type R, you've got, I guess, the BMW 128 Ti, Golf GTI. The question is, would you go and buy one of these? Well, I think from a price point, but from a price perspective, when you compare it against some of its rivals, yes, you know, you do get a lot of car for the money, and I'll touch on what we get in terms of interior shortly. However, you know, you look at something like a GR Yaris, which is similar money. There's an argument to say actually the Yaris is a bit more involving. Now, I know they're very different kind of cars, but I've got to be honest, the Yaris is just, well, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Not taking anything away from this though. This thing actually has great mid-range torque, it has great acceleration, and there's an argument to say you're not really going to need any more than what this car delivers. 300 horsepower for the road is completely and utterly fine. You know, if anything, I think that's the sweet spot. We get a 7-speed dual clutch gearbox on this, coupled with paddles here on the steering wheel. Now, let's talk about driver position, how it feels for me to drive. I sit very well in these very comfortable leather Cupra seats, which obviously have these lovely bronze stitching with them and this kind of light, like dark blue grey colour. The handling on the Cupra is very, very good. We do get adaptive suspension. Right now I'm playing around with Cupra mode, but if you kind of play around between Cupra Sport and Comfort, it gives you different elements of damper setting, which either makes the ride a lot more comfortable, or in my case right now, a lot more firm. And depending on the kind of driving you want to go for, this kind of gives you, well, the best of everything really, which is nice. Do get a little bit of torque steer out of that, but you get that from front wheel drive as the front just breaks traction a bit and the car is fighting to try and put as much of that power down on the road. I like that. I think it's exciting. I think it feels involving. Whereas the four-wheel drive models, whilst you get a quicker 0 to 60 time, they feel a little bit more sterile. They'll feel a little bit too clinical. And obviously, as we move into the winter months, there's an argument to say you'd rather have a four-wheel drive version, but front-wheel drive is still a very fun car. That suspension really is, it's nice. You can really lean on it. It's not, oh, it's good. I do like it. I do like this car. Now, as I said, the seating position, great. You know, I sit nice, low to the ground. Distance between me and the steering wheel is nice. The steering wheel itself is a very nice bronze stitching, and it's not too thick either, which I do like. I've got a nice number of options in front of me, including things like heated steering wheel on the steering wheel itself, as well as my cruise control and my different viewpoints for the virtual cockpit per se, which is good because this leads me on to a couple of the challenges I find with this car. And it's not just this car, it's a lot of modern cars which are moving into a space of just less buttons. In front of me here is like, I think it's a 12-inch TFT screen. Great once you get the hang of it. Really tough to really start navigating when you're actually on the move because you don't really know where everything is. However, we do get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as a bit of a, well, it's a standard on this. You do need to kind of get used to everything else on here. Like to do the heated seats, you've got to fanny around here, push some buttons, and it's not ideal. Let's get to some national speed. Yeah, this has good pull, man. Very good pull. And really, other than first gear, where it tries to break a bit of traction, all other gears, you're putting 100% of that power down onto the tarmac, unless it's a very wet or icy day. And as I said, the Cupra suspension here, I take this corner, look, it's just effortless. Absolutely effortless. Actually, the way the Cupra hatch is set up, the rear passengers get a good amount of headroom, myself included. I'm relatively tall, 6'1". I've got a whole lot of headroom here. So really, in terms of comfort and space, you're quids in with this car. And the other bit, which I should point out, which I think is actually very, very good, is the size of the boot. The size of the boot is vast. You can put loads of stuff in the boot. So if you're traveling heavy, you're not really going to worry about anything in terms of space with the Cupra Leon 300 VZ3. It's quite a tongue twister, that one, isn't it? Do one more little acceleration. Let's see if the traction control goes nuts. Traction light, traction light, traction light. Nothing in second. So first gear struggled, and that's the thing. That's why you've got that 5.7 0 to 60. But if I go into kind of your normal mode, and I'll show you, because it's going to be quite fun to get it into comfort mode, because I've got a mess around here. Let's try it. You hear all these little click noises as well. It's like I'm using a 1995 Windows computer with all these clicks. Now I need to navigate to my driving mode. If I press the car, driver profile, now I can go, let's go comfort. Just so I can kind of give you guys a bit more of a feel on the adaptive side as well, because once you're in comfort mode, it is a very nice drive. It's very absorbing of bumps. It's very compliant, and I love testing cars on the roads I'm on here because it gives me a nice variety of speeds. It gives me a nice variety of kind of road surfaces as well as cornering. And right now in comfort, I'm not even feeling any of these little potholes that are in front of me. It really is a comfortable car, but you'd expect that from VAG, you'd expect that from Cupra. But what I do like is the fact that Cupra have really started to pave their way back into the market. With all their recent cars, particularly things like the Cupra Formentor, which is the first Cupra unique product, they are doing well and sales are going through the roof. So a lot of people are clearly seeing value for money in these cars, or they just really enjoy them. My only issues with this car is that you'll spend so much time telling people what it is you're driving, because they won't really understand. They'll see you fly past them and they'll go, what is that? Those gear changes are so seamless. You'll see people fly past, they'll think, what is that? And you'll spend about 25 minutes explaining to them what it is and what a Cupra is. Because it does look, unfortunately for me, particularly from the side profile, you take the wheels away, it just looks like a normal Leon. And I'd like to have seen a little bit more oomph in terms of aggressive styling. I mean, even things like the Cupra Born, you know, that looks cool, that looks aggressive. This, for me, maybe it's the color, it's a little too understated for me. I think if it was in the matte blue, I'd feel differently about it.